Okay, so let's start with the Bellwork here. For number 1, we have two factors, as you can see, and they're almost similar, just the signs seem to be different. So what we have to do is multiply these two factors, and how we multiply two factors is by FOILing. So in this case here, we are going to FOIL out this factor. So I'm going to distribute the 3 first into the terms. So that's going to give me 3 times 3, which is 9. And then 3 times positive I, which is going to be positive 3I. Remember, I from yesterday we learned as imaginary numbers. Now I'm going to take the second term and distribute that. So I get negative I times 3, which is negative 3I. And then I have negative I times I, which is negative I squared. So now what we have to do is reduce this. Let me put my equal sign here. So let's simplify this. So we have 9, and notice that our two terms are like, our two inner terms are like terms because they both have i's, but they seem to be opposite in signs. And what have we learned about if they're opposites in signs? So in this case, they are going to cancel. So that means that my middle term cancels. Now, yesterday we learned that I squared is equal to negative 1. So instead of writing this I squared, I can replace that with negative 1 and make that into a real number. So our middle terms cancel, and now I have the negative from the I squared, and then I have the negative 1. And so if I simplify, I get, looks like up to negatives make a positive, so that's going to give me a positive 10. Now let's try the second one. So the second question or equation here is also two factors, and they also are similar, but they're different in signs. So let's see what happens when we FOIL. So I'm going to distribute, it looks like a 4 first. Distribute my 4 into each term. So that's going to give me 4 times 4, which is 16. And then 4 times 5i is 20i. If I distribute my 5 here, my negative 5i, I get negative 20i. Oh, would you look at that? It looks like the middle terms are going to cancel. But let's keep going, and then let's see what happens. So negative 5i times 5i is going to be negative 25i squared. And let's go ahead and simplify this, and we do see that the middle term here again cancels because they're opposite signs and they're the same numbers. So in this case they are going to cancel, and so what I'm left with is this 16. Ooh, that's a highlighter. Let me redo that. Grab my pen. So I have 16, and then I have this negative 25i squared, but we remembered that I squared is just negative 1. So instead of I squared, I'm going to write negative 1. So I have negative 25 times negative 1. And so if we work this out, I'm going to write it over here because I seem to be running out of room. So this is going to be equal 16. Well, negative 25 times negative 1 is going to give me positive 25. And so if I add these two numbers together, it looks like I get, let's see, 16 plus 25 is going to be 41. So it looks like I get 41. So from here, I can see that here is my simplified number. So I'm just going to box that in. So what did you notice when you multiplied these two factors? Well, right away we noticed that these factors here were almost the same, but they were different in signs, right? So for equation 2, we can see that they're also the same, but different in signs as well. And so after we FOILed these factors, we noticed that the middle terms canceled. And so in this case, whenever you multiply two factors that are the same but different in signs, the middle term cancels. It's just like how you think of when we were working with the difference of squares, when we were learning about factoring. It's kind of like that. So what I'm going to write here is after the factors are FOILed, the middle term always cancels. I think I spelled cancels wrong. Let me erase that. There we go. So after the factors are FOILed, the middle terms always cancels.